Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to go over multiplying a binomial times a binomial using the FOIL method. Okay, in case you haven't seen it, there are a few videos you want to go through. So the first is I do have another method called the box method for multiplying a binomial times a binomial. If that works for you, go ahead and click it and then you don't have to worry about FOIL. Like I said, in this video, we are going to look at FOIL. However, we want to make sure we are clear on how to collect those like terms. So if you are unsure of what I mean by like terms, make sure you check out this video here that actually walks you through on how to identify the like terms and how to collect them. All right, but if you're all good, let's go ahead and let's look at our first example. All right, so this is our example taken from our workbook here, and we're going to go ahead and tackle FOIL. So FOIL is an acronym that stands for basically the order of how we're going to solve this. So you've heard me say this before, when we're multiplying numbers, we can do something that's called rainbowing it in. Really what it means is we're taking the numbers from one bracket and multiplying it to the numbers inside the next bracket. FOIL just keeps us in line of the order of how we do things. So the first thing the F stands for is for the first. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply the first terms together. So that is going to leave me with x times x, which we know is x squared. And the reason it's x squared is we're taking a variable with an exponent of 1, it has the same base, timesing it by the same thing. So that means we can add the exponent, and that's going to leave us with an exponent of 2. The next part of FOIL is the outside. So I'm going to go ahead and look at x times 2. Those are the numbers both on the outside of each bracket. So x times 2 is going to leave me with 2x. Then we need to look at the inside. That's what the I stands for. And that's going to be 1 times x. Well, that's nice and simple. It's just going to leave me with x or 1x, but remember we don't write the 1 because it's invisible. And then finally we have our last, which is going to be the 1 times 2, or just multiplying those coefficients together. So 1 times 2 is just going to leave me with 2. All right, so that is the FOIL piece, and now we need to look for any like terms. So I'm scanning the whole thing and I see 2 like terms, and this will often be the case with standard FOIL. Your like terms most of the time will be hanging out here. Not always, but most of the time. So I'm going to put a little box around them, and I'm going to say, well, okay, we're adding 2x plus x. That's going to be 3x. So altogether, my simplified version becomes x squared plus 3x plus 2. And that's the answer for this example. Okay, let's look at this example. So same thing, we're going to use FOIL, and we're going to look at our first, outside, inside, and last. So first thing I'm going to want to do is multiply those. So 2x times x, that's going to leave me with 2x squared. Then I'm going to want to look at the outside. That's going to be 2x times 4. That's going to give me 8x. So again, we're just multiplying those coefficients, 2 times 4, and then bringing along that x. Then we're going to look at the inside, negative 3 times x. That's going to give me negative 3x. And finally, our last, which is negative 3 times 4. That's going to give me negative 12. Now with these ones, we do really want to be careful about making sure we multiply everything by that negative. If you do get confused with that, just give it a quick little circle so you remember that negative is attached to that 3. Therefore, everything that's multiplied by negative 3, we're going to have to keep track of those signs. So now again, I'm going to scan the whole thing and look for my like terms. And fortunately for us, like last time, our like terms are in the middle here. So we have positive 8 things, and we are collecting it with negative 3 things. So positive 8 things and negative 3, that's going to simplify to positive 5. So this is going to be 2x squared plus 5x minus 12. And that is our answer for this one. All right, example C. So with this one, what most kids want to do, which kind of makes sense because from grade 9, we've been drilling this in, most kids just want to go ahead and expand that 2. We can't actually do that because this 2 is outside the bracket. So what this 2 is really saying is that here's our base, but we have 2 of them. And if you watched my video on exponents, what I like to say is that 2 is telling us we are screenshotting everything inside the bracket, right? This is like the outer part of your device, or I guess your device, and then you are copying what's inside that. So really what this actually means is we have 2 of these. We have 3x minus 2, that's one of them, we're squaring it, so we have another one right next to it. Now we're gonna go ahead and do FOIL. So for the FOIL, we're gonna go 3x times 3x, that's gonna get me to 9x squared. Then we're gonna do our outside, so 3x times negative 2, that's gonna get me negative 6x. We'll look at our insides, negative 2 times 3x, that's gonna get me to negative 6x again. And finally, our last is negative 2 times negative 2. So a negative times a negative is a positive. That's gonna get me to positive 4. Looking at, again, my like terms are right in here. So that's gonna be negative 6 and negative 6. So we have 2 sets of negative things coming together, so we can add those together, but the answer is gonna be negative. So that's gonna leave me with 9x squared minus 12x plus 4. And with this one, I should mention why it's a little bit trickier is because we no longer have everything being multiplied by x on its own. It's now 3x, right? So every time you multiply it by, let's say 3x times negative 2, we're going to get that 6x. So we got to be careful of that, right? Because they will do that to us with these examples. Okay, last example here. Another kind of tricky one, right? So it looks like your average binomial and binomial, but it's got a 2 in front of it. So this 2 here is just being applied to this bracket here. So now what we can do is we can rainbow everything in and then kind of look back and get our polynomials. So 2 times 2x is going to be 4x plus 2 times 1, that's going to be 2. So that's everything in that bracket, and now we can multiply it by everything in this bracket here. So let's go ahead and look at that. 4x times 4x is 16x squared. 4x times negative 5 is going to get me to negative 20x. And 2 times 4x will get me 8x. And finally, our last one is 2 times negative 5. That's going to get me negative 10. And then we're going to go ahead and collect our like terms here. So if I were to rewrite this, this would be 16x squared. And then we have negative 20x plus 8. So you have negative 20 things and you're adding 8 things to it. That's going to be negative 12x minus 10. And there is our answer for that one. All right, that is it for me on multiplying binomials times binomials. Good luck studying. Just as a reminder, I do hold those one-on-one sessions if you need a little bit of extra support. And as always, in the description, there are some extra practice for you to work on. Until then, I'll see you all in the next video. Bye, everybody.